Welcome back. All right, so it's a Monday. We're less than 2 weeks from the end of the regular season. We're 2 weeks from today away from the playoffs. I figured today's a good day to do one of these nothing to see here, move along kind of videos. And looking at some of my old videos and looking at view counts, the Fanatics taking over the jerseys. That's now the number two most watched video in the history of the channel. I find that a little bit surprising, but at the same time, maybe I shouldn't. At any rate, I do want to talk about that, but I want to talk about some other things. So I put points on the board because once you reach my age, you need to make sure you have the points on the board. Plus, the board evolved from the fact that when I started the channel, I would just kind of just sit and talk and ramble. And there were various topics that would get covered, and people pointed out, you should do a video on this topic and then a video on this topic and then that kind of thing rather than just one ramble. So that's why I started parsing things out differently. So when I see people saying, well, you should just meld this into one video, I do that with the news and the preview if there's 3 or less games. But outside of that, I don't, because I know that that's something that people will make comments on, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. There are various topics that can get discussed. It makes more sense to do multiple videos. So I wanted to say that one thing that's definitely changed over the last, it's 7 years now, almost 8 years. And I say almost 8 because even though the earliest hockey video on this channel is from May of 2015, I had no idea what was coming. It was more of just I want to talk about hockey. I'll fire up the webcam and just put a video out there and see what happens. But yeah, when my teams win or lose, there's a total difference between now and 8 years ago. But the biggest difference was that 8 years ago, I wasn't watching every team. I wasn't watching every game. I would watch other teams here and there. Like I would subscribe to Center Ice so that I could watch the Bruins, so that I could watch Dallas. And I felt like it was worth the $100 a year to be able to watch Dallas or Boston. I felt like that was a good investment because Vancouver sometimes disappointed me often. But one thing that's changed too is that my level of anger and frustration now, if a team I cheer for loses, is nowhere near what it was 8 years ago. And also, the other side effect is that when a team I cheer for wins, I'm happy and I'm excited. It's nowhere near what it was looking back to 15, 20 years ago. It's nowhere near that level because there's 32 fan bases on the channel. There are people waiting for the recap of the game I just watched. So yeah, as exciting as that was, I got to go back into work mode. I got to report on it. And I got to make sure that I keep myself as level as possible in that video because, again, my channel was, the idea at the beginning was to talk about all 32 teams. And here we are 8 years later, and I'm talking about all 32 teams. So one team doesn't get more attention from me than another on game nights. There have been games lately the Canucks have played where I don't watch as much of that game as I do of the other ones because I know that the Canucks game has no bearing on the standings whatsoever. So the attention has to go towards the game that has a greater bearing on the standings, and it has nothing to do with whether or not I cheer for the teams. Now, I also want to throw this in here because I see this a lot, so I want to discuss this. This is something that's not isolated to this channel. It's something I've noticed a lot, that a critique equals hatred. So if I say I like this player more than this player, it becomes, why do you hate that player? I didn't say I hated that player. I think this player is overrated. Oh, that's hate. No, it's not hate. And I don't think it is. I don't think it's hate to say that a team is overrated. I don't think it's hate when, like, I'm looking at my power rankings board. There's no hate that drives any of that. It's just, it's not there. Yeah, Boston's been number one most of the year. They've given me zero reason to drop them out of first place. And when they have, they've been dropped out of first place. But it is this weird thing that, oh, there's hate. That's it. He hates. See, he hates. And there's not much I can do to answer that when it's out there and it's like, oh, he hates this and that. And I mean, there are people I've had really reasonable reactions to things they've said, and I've given responses of, no, I understand you feel that way, but here's why I don't hate this player. Here's why I don't hate this team. And then the answer is, yeah, whatever. I know you hate them. Okay, cool. So one difference between now and before would be I don't really pay much attention to it. Because, and I looked it up, critique is just a detailed analysis and assessment of something. But apparently that equals hate if when I do that analysis, I say, the numbers tell me that the best player is insert name here. The numbers tell me the team that should make the playoffs is insert name here. It immediately becomes, why do you hate this team? I don't. But it is, that seems to be the default on the internet now, is, oh, it's nice outside, it's sunny. Why do you hate the rain? Well, I don't hate why do you, or I love snow. Why do you hate the sun? Without the sun, you wouldn't be here. You're an idiot. Okay, anyways. But it's, just apply that to absolutely everything, I would like to have a burger. Why do you hate hot dogs? That doesn't mean, that's not what that means at all. At all. I might hate you don't know. And it's something that, as the channel's gotten bigger and bigger, and as I'm more aware of how many people watch videos, and I try not to think about it a whole lot, and I'll get into that when I get down to this part of the notes. But yeah, I mean, you have to be aware of who might be watching, and you got to be. I'm not going to say censoring yourself, but you have to make sure that you're keeping subjectivity out of it as much as possible. If it feels like it's not based on actual data, and it's just based on I think, and so that can end up being translated as hate as well. One thing that I get a kick out of is when people say, well, the hockey guy has to say, if it's something supporting an NHL decision, if it's something supporting whatever, right? Well, he has to say, the reality is that I do this every day. I do this in my room here, and I don't have to say anything. Like, I could come out tomorrow and say, well, that's it. I'm done, everybody. And I've thought about doing that on April 1st. But I would be very concerned that if I did a video on an April 1st where I said, yeah, so tonight I've decided I'm not recapping games, I'm going to retire. I'm done. I'm going to sell off the jerseys. I'm going to retire. I'm done. There would be people who'd believe it, and I'd see my subscriber numbers drop perilously, and I'd rather not, so I don't. But the idea that I have to say things, when the channel was first starting out, there were people who said, well, as a YouTuber, you work for your viewers, and the reality is the YouTubers work basically for themselves. Although tax collectors will tell you they get their cut as well, but. And like I don't work for YouTube. Like, I have my contact at YouTube, and obviously they want to meet with me and talk to me regularly because that's kind of their job. And if I'm saying I'm doing fine, I don't need that help right now, it then would send the message to YouTube of, all right, so you're not either the idea that they're not important, or they're not really helping me. Either way, it would reflect badly on them, right? So I try to be understanding of that and all of that kind of stuff. But the idea that I have to say things, it's not true. There are news items that I say, yeah, I'm just going to leave that. And then there are other things too that I'll say, nobody's talking about this right now. I want to talk about this. And I try to make sure that that there's something being discussed that may not be getting discussed elsewhere on this channel. So that, and because I feel like that's kind of important, especially for me watching all the games. I don't see that there's a point me watching all the games if I'm not going to look and say, there's a trend going on here, and discuss it in recap videos, and then discuss it as well in news videos, and potentially other videos where I do deep dives on teams as well, where I say, there's a trend that you may not notice if you're not watching all the games. There may be teams you're not paying attention to who suddenly find themselves in the hunt for the playoffs, or find themselves ready to fall out of a playoff spot and say, what happened there? So I kind of feel like that's something that, like, watching all the games is about making sure the power rankings are as accurate as I can make them, and making sure that I can talk about things going on in games, and I can talk about players. So if we went to Florida and I was talking to a Panthers fan, and I could talk to them with some level of knowledge on how guys played that year, and which players I like and which ones I thought needed to pick up their game, and that kind of thing. So I think that's important. And I know when we were down in Anaheim in January, it was great talking to Ducks fans, and and being able to talk to them about the team and who I thought was playing well and who I thought wasn't, and just that kind of stuff. And so having that knowledge, it's important. So I also, and this leads nicely into the October through April grind, which is the regular season. I don't know how the players do this, to be honest. I think that it's remarkable that we have I think Boston, yesterday, I think they said Boston's had 4 games a week for the last 3 weeks. It's a lot of hockey. That's 12 games in 21 days. And it is a lot. Now these are athletes that are paid good money, and they are in the best shape of any athletes that have ever been in the NHL. Like every year, it feels like they're in better shape, and they're in better shape year round. So even in the off season of I'll let myself go, and then we'll have 2 weeks in training camp so I can get into shape. Those days are gone. But it's important too with the grind that I keep that genuine enthusiasm for what I'm doing. And so I'm looking at next season, and I'm thinking, on nights where there's 2 or less games, maybe I do take a night where I say, I'm gonna do I'll do like a list video. I will talk about what happened in that game, but maybe my wife and I go out for dinner. Maybe we go out and do something on the nights where it's really, quiet in the National Hockey League. And I think I'm okay with that. It's something that has definitely, it's reached a point where I won't leave the house at all if there's games on, because I feel like I can't. And busy nights, I think that's important. But I think on nights where there's only a couple of games on, I don't think it's a big deal if I go out and if I do stuff. Go out and watch a movie, and just for that little bit of a break, just that little bit of a break that provides. I think that's something that's important. So I'm considering that for next season, because again, it gets back to THG has to say, and in this case, this THG has to. You have to do this. You have to, there was a comment I saw yesterday along the lines of, if I'm not going to watch certain games because of the time of day, and I'm not willing to go without sleep to watch hockey, then I'm not dedicated enough to what I'm doing. I've become aware as I've gotten older, sleep is really important. And on days after I haven't got enough sleep, I know myself that I'm not happy necessarily with certain videos that I might do. There are times too where I will have an entire video done, and when it's finished, I go, nope, and I start over, because maybe I don't like my delivery, maybe I don't like some of the words I used, maybe I'm like, where was I going with that? So the meandering that I do that ends up on the channel, there's plenty of meandering that goes way further that I just say, wow, I don't know where I was going with that. Let's start over. And very often it's because I'm not getting enough sleep. So prioritizing sleep and that refreshment so that I have that enthusiasm is important. Because I think instead of, this is night 400 in a row of watching 10 hours, I don't think that does any good. I don't think it serves anybody either. I also wanted to throw in here the TEG thing. So the entertainment guy part that I enjoy throwing in. And there will be comments like, well, nobody watches the other channel. The other channel exists for a simple reason. When the channel moved over to being a hockey channel, initially there were still videos I was doing on other topics. And I got complaints. And I saw sub counts starting to drop. And I was like, okay, so just hockey on this channel. Got it. Cool. Fine. And videos like this, where I'm just talking to all you fine people on the internet, and you guys are watching and consuming my content. But if I want to talk about a TV show, if I want to talk about music, if I want to talk about a concert I went to, if we're on a trip and we want to document that trip and what we've been doing, it all goes on the Entertainment Guy channel, because that's where it belongs. Dumping Ground doesn't sound like a good name for a channel, so I'm not going to call it that. But it's everything not hockey. It is everything that's not hockey. And once the regular season's done, I start producing more content on that channel. I have more time. I cheated a bit on the weekend. I did watch parts of WrestleMania. One thing with the games being lopsided, and there were some games that just, I don't know, the entertainment value for some of these was a little bit low, which I think the schedule has something to do with. Some of these teams are tired and they're having trouble focusing. I don't really blame them. But yeah, I watched some Mania because I wanted to see what happened. And I was a little bit surprised in a couple of results, but I was less surprised in others. But again, I didn't do a recap of it on the TEG channel because I felt like I didn't watch enough to do a recap. And that's an important thing, right? I have to have watched it. I've done detailed recaps of wrestling shows. I've taken notes on movies and TV. I used to do it before I had a channel. I mentioned in our last live stream, and I'll mention it here as well. I watched the movie Congo, and I heard it was really bad. And so I got a notebook and a pen, and I wrote down every ridiculous line in the movie. And with bad movies, I did that for a while, where I would write down really ridiculous lines and dumb things that happened. Well, now I'm a huge consumer of red letter media, and so I don't do that stuff anymore because I feel like that's kind of what they're doing. So I kind of leave it as is, as Bear decides to run around the room like a crazy cat. What is, anyways? She's getting older, so she has these episodes where she just decides, and now I'm a kitten. Anyways, so yeah, the entertainment guy exists for that, for me to post all that, and I mean, I do talk about bad movies on there too. We really haven't been out to see movies much at all over the last few years. I feel like it wasn't really an option in 2020 and parts of 2021, and now to get me to decide I want to go to a theater, I want to plunk down that money and watch a movie, it had better be really, really good. So that's just, it has to be fantastic. Yeah, Bear's not going to stop either. All right, so I give her some treats. That makes things quiet for a bit here. I actually had to start bringing toys in here because she definitely needs to play more. All right, so June 2016 is when I started doing the daily videos, when I realized, hey, so there might be something here. So I started talking about hockey daily then, although there were still some days that there aren't videos from then. And it's daily videos now. There's a few reasons that I do the daily videos. The most important part is that there are people who are going through a lot right now. There always are. And back in 2014, when I hit my lowest point, there are two things that helped. I worked every day and I dove into my work. I signed up on my days off to work. I worked all the overtime that they would give me. I was willing to do whatever it took. And then I would come home and I'd watch YouTube videos. And it felt like those channels that posted regularly, that was part of my daily routine. And that routine was really important because it felt like a lot of my life had kind of been broken at that point. So I understand that helps other people. And when we've traveled, I've had people, come up to me and say, hey, I'm going through this right now, and it might be health related, it might be a family related issue, just whatever they're going through. And they're like, your daily videos really help. So on the days when maybe that enthusiasm isn't there, I tap into those memories and those people who've, sent me letters, emails, and people I've met in person that have said, hey, those daily videos are really important to me right now. There's a subscriber to the channel that I've talked to, and I've hung out at meetups, and he's been in a couple of live streams with me and goes through a lot of anxiety stuff. And honestly, when I do these videos, I think about that kind of thing, like the anxiety just in general with people right now, really high. I have social anxiety too, so I get it. And so if these are part of your social interaction, something you view as your social interaction, great, awesome. I'm glad to help. And for people starting a channel, because this is one thing that gets asked a lot, like I'm going to start one. Go with your gut, go with what you feel is genuine for you. And for me, that involves not doing the green screen, not doing all the graphic stuff, not doing all of the extra stuff that I know most people do. And that's part of the reason why it feels like it's a more unique experience for that. And the YouTube rep I was talking to last time even said, well, you could do a fundraiser for a green screen. And I said, whoa. And I told him, I said, I don't do fundraisers. And if I want to do something, I'm not going to solicit money from subscribers to get that done. It's just that's how that works. I'm not going to do that. So for people starting out a channel, be true to yourself, be true to your vision. I was told in the beginning, you can't have cats in your videos. That's not going to work. And she's going right back to the toy, isn't she? Yep, she's going right back to it. But so that got me 3 minutes apiece. And now she's fed, so she'll have more energy to play with that. Anyways, starting out a channel, just be true to yourself. And also it's important to kind of have your own vision for how you're going to do things so that it's not, you don't want to be in a position where as you're starting out, people are like, well, this channel's a clone of, this channel's a copy of, and that kind of thing. So that's really important. Again, when I went to the whiteboards, it was more to organize my own thoughts so that, and people are going to be watching this going, this is organized? Yeah, exactly. Just imagine without the whiteboard, be all over the place. Back in my day. But yeah, if you're starting a channel, it is important to do it your own way and figure out what is it I want to say to the world. What is it that I want to say right now that I think other people will want to hear about? That's important. So that's where I would go with that. Now, we get asked a lot about trips and where we've gone and where we haven't gone. And all the pauses that are animal related. Okay, trips and meetups. So we're having our first meetup on April the 15th. It's a Hickey Park, Coquitlam. And it's street hockey. It's generally how I do that. I don't do the autograph sessions. I mean, if somebody wants me to sign something, I will. But I find that really weird because that used to be a running joke of mine at my old job. That I would there was one person in particular that I would bother them and just needle at them, and to make it up for them I would get a bunch of pieces of paper and just autograph them. And so she'd come over to her spot on the table to eat her lunch. She's like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "Those are my autographs. Those are going to be worth a lot of money. Those are limited edition autographs. Those are specially for you to make up for how things have been today. And I'm really sorry." And she'd just crumple up and go, "These aren't worth anything." She'd throw them out. It's just ridiculous. So I think about that now. Anytime people say, "Well, what about autographs?" Yeah, people I knew didn't want my autograph 8 years ago. So I find that odd. Not that I turn it down necessarily, although I've had a couple of times where somebody said, "Can you sign my jersey?" And I'm like, I didn't play for that team. So that feels weird. That feels really, really weird. But at any rate, we're doing the meetups around here. We're considering one in Seattle in July. It'll be in July, maybe in August. It may actually end up being in Tacoma. We've been down there a couple of times, and it feels like it's a bit easier to find a really good spot to play street hockey in Tacoma. But with the addition of the Kraken, who knows? Maybe it'll be easy to find a place down there. But yeah, the trip we're planning on for this year, and it is singular, is that my wife and I are going to go to Disney ourselves without the kids in August. We were planning on doing that in 2020, and then everything was gone. So we plan to do that in August. We have 2 weeks during any given year where we have some freedom to do stuff. So we're going to do that in August. And then there's a Vegas contingent as well. We haven't worked out and figured out exactly where we're staying and what the plan is, but that's the plan. And then that's it. So I would love to go to Boston. I'd love to go to the East Coast, but I do have a wife and kids, and just the logistics of that can be tough. And I don't travel alone. Traveling alone doesn't appeal to me in the slightest. I don't have any intention of traveling by myself. And whenever I've asked my wife about getting a girlfriend, even for reasonable reasons of business, she's told me that's not allowed. So right? So unreasonable. But at any rate, all kidding aside, that's the plan for this year. And then as kids get older and as we get a little more freedom, sure. But at that point, I'll be an old fart and I'll probably be like, "I'm done with traveling." So yeah, I would love to see a game in Boston. I'd love to go to Montreal. I'd love to go to Toronto. I'd love to take in games in every arena around the NHL. And I don't know that that's going to happen. So fingers crossed at some point it does. Like going to Europe. We would love to go to Europe. Absolutely love to go to Europe. But it's a matter of the logistics and just having the time and the ability to get that done. And I wanted to end on this too, because I know this gets talked about a lot. So bad calls. Bad calls in the NHL, they happen. I saw Jay Fresh post about this today, and he's right. They happen to every team. They benefit every team. They hurt every team. It depends on the game. It depends on the situation. Bad calls happen. NHL refereeing might be the most difficult officiating job there is in sports. It is so fast. It is very difficult to see absolutely everything from every angle. The one thing that I always tell people is, if you have a chance to watch a game, and it doesn't matter the level of hockey, you can watch junior, anything. Watch it from ice level. So watch it from the first, second, or third row. It gets a lot harder to see everything that's going on the ice and to see the infractions. So you'll see penalty being called, and you'll be like, "What?" And you look at the big screen there, and you'll see what happened. You'll be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's a penalty." And there are times where stuff gets missed. And again, the big screen will show you what got missed. The fans will tell you what got missed, who are sitting in the nosebleeds up there, because that's the best view. And one thing that I've always said is, if the NHL had a setup where there was an eye in the sky that could make or correct calls and not have a bunch of review time, not have a bunch of extra time out there, I think it would benefit the NHL. I just don't know what that would look like, but I think it would resolve a lot of the issues. But I don't talk about it in recaps because everybody has missed calls, everybody has bad penalties, and I don't know what's up with Bear. I took that really noisy toy away from her, but she's just the crazy eyes. But I'm happy. I'm happy when my cat, who normally just sits around and sleeps, when she's like this. This is good. That's good exercise for you. Yep. Careful of the rabbit, though, when you're running around. Anyways, there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It has meant a lot over the last, since June 2016, so we're almost on seven years of daily videos, and I intend to continue that this summer. I'm going to do another jersey countdown. I'm not sure how many jerseys will be in said countdown. There are always people that are excited about it, and there are always people who feel like this is obnoxious, this is way too many, why are you doing this? So I got to kind of balance it out. And then, of course, there's other history series that I do during the summer. I intend to do more history series stuff. And, of course, once the playoffs are decided, I'll be doing a series on teams that missed the playoffs and then series on teams that get knocked out and what happened. So a lot of stuff. There's always something for me to talk about, and I make sure that the playlists are good to go for the summer. So when I see, Stanley Cup's been awarded, it'll be nice for you to take some time off. Nope. After the Stanley Cup's awarded, we got the draft. Then we've got free agency. And then after free agency on July the 1st, from July 2nd until about the 1st of September, that's where all your playlists are going to be, although some of the playlists will go into September as well. But it's important to have the balance. That's why I've started recording videos before we go on holidays, because it really does help with that balance. When we went to Disney, I was able to really enjoy it and relax. When we went to Vegas last summer, I was able to really enjoy it and relax. And again, I don't know what the future brings, so I really should enjoy it, and I really should enjoy doing what I do, because then you get the genuine enthusiasm from October through April. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. I will talk to you again soon.